John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hello, my name is John Ulzheimer. I am a consumer credit expert, spent time at FICO and Equifax. FICO is a credit scoring company. Equifax is one of the credit reporting agencies. And today's topic is going to be a lightning rod topic, meaning that it always spurs a lot of arguments and disagreements. And that topic is going to answer the question, are credit reports accurate? I think the knee-jerk reaction to this question is no, credit reports are not accurate. So I'm going to suggest that perhaps we dive a little bit deeper down into this topic and not answer the question with feelings, but answer the question with data and facts. And so the best way to determine whether or not credit reports are accurate as a whole is to do a study, a credit file accuracy study, to determine empirically whether or not credit reports are accurate, inaccurate, overwhelmingly accurate, overwhelmingly inaccurate. And that's the best way to answer the question, all right? So there have been 3 generally recognized credit file accuracy studies performed in the past 17 years. And none of them were performed recently. One was performed by the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, or U.S. PIRG. That was done in 2004. It consisted of 154 reports and determined that 79% of the people in their study had some sort of an error on their credit report. One was done by the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC. The study results were published in 2013, and their study consisted of 3,000 reports. And their results indicated that 2.2% of credit reports had some sort of a material error. And then finally, one was done by an organization called the Policy and Economic Research Council, or PERC, and they did theirs in 2011. They had 2,338 participants, and they determined that less than 1% of credit reports had a material error. So I can tell you that I've covered this topic ad nauseum for a really, really long time. 2 of the 3 of these studies are generally recognized as being done properly and in a neutral environment with a great deal of thought put to the structure of the report or of the study. One of them is widely regarded as being invalid, and that's the PIRG report. So we're not even going to discuss this one because I don't think anybody actually believes that almost 80% of credit reports have errors. So we're really going to focus our time on the FTC study and the PIRG study. According to the Federal Trade Commission, now remember, the FTC protects the interests of consumers, overtly protects the interests of consumers. They're not an industry-facing organization. They are a consumer protection organization. The FTC defines harm, as far as the credit report goes, as something that will lower your credit score, okay? So what this indicates is that there has to be some sort of materiality to an error for it to be considered harmful. PERC has a similar definition in their definition of what they refer to as a material error. A material error has to be one that, when it's corrected, it results in a credit score increase of some amount, 10 points, 15 points, 20 points, 25 points, meaning that whatever the error was on the credit report was causing your credit score to be lower, okay? And I can tell you that I do a lot of expert witness work in the Fair Credit Reporting Act world, and I can tell you that many courts have found that just simply having a lower score is not damage. And so there has to be some sort of impact or consequence of having a lower score. So it seems like if you take all of these study structures and kind of blend them together, then we really have to discuss material errors rather than just immaterial or cosmetic errors. I'll give you an example of a cosmetic error. Let's say that the former address on your credit report has an incorrect zip code. Okay, that is an immaterial error. Is it an error using a binary definition of correct and incorrect? Yes, it's not correct. Therefore, you could make the argument that that's an error. That's where you start getting results where 70 and 80% of credit reports have errors because they may have an incorrect date or an incorrect address or an incorrect zip code, something to the effect of cosmetic issues. Those types of issues are not impactful to credit scores at all, so you can't have a lower credit score because of those types of errors. Those are not considered in this kind of evaluation. The reason they're not considered in this evaluation is because they don't have any sort of impact to the consumer at all. The credit scores aren't lower. They're not going to get a declination from a lender because of something like that. So we're really just talking about material errors, and material errors are those that when they're corrected, your credit score goes up to the point where you go to a better risk tier, meaning that you are likely to get a better deal from a lender or an approval from a lender versus a denial, okay? So there has to be a meaningful error that leads to a material increase or decrease in a consumer score before it's considered to be like a valid error. According to the Federal Trade Commission, 2.2% of the study results indicated that the credit reports had some sort of a material error. According to PERC, less than 1% of the credit reports that were surveyed, and they had tons and tons of reports, okay? So these would consider what you consider to be statistically valid samples. If you blend the study results here, then the error rate drops to a little bit less than 2%. And if you look at that from a practical perspective, that would mean that 98% of credit reports are accurate, meaning that they are either legitimately 100% accurate, or if they do have some sort of mistake with them, then it's a cosmetic, meaningless mistake that the consumer probably would not be terribly concerned with, and probably would not go through the process of filing a consumer dispute and attempting to have it corrected. So what can you do? Because I always try to discuss these studies and be very, very careful that while you may be impressed with the fact that the FTC did a study or that PERC did a study, and they have all these PhDs doing these studies, and they're peer-reviewed and analyzed, and they're absolutely recognized and cited widely by publications that follow this type of stuff, I recognize that the most important credit report as far as accurate or inaccurate is your credit report. And so I acknowledge and recognize that while these studies surveyed thousands and thousands of credit reports and found really, really low material error rates, which I think is probably surprising to a lot of consumers, really you're most concerned with your 3 credit reports and whether or not those have any material errors that need to be corrected. So what do? You check your credit report. There's really no other way to know whether or not you've got a mistake on your credit report other than checking it. You can check your credit report at annualcreditreport.com. annualcreditreport.com. Please spell that correctly, because if not, you may end up at a squatter website. So I think the answer to the question, are credit reports accurate, if you look at the data and the facts from the valid studies on this issue, I think the answer is overwhelmingly yes, which I think is counterintuitive because people love to beat up on credit reports thinking that they're somehow overwhelmingly polluted with mistakes, when in reality, they are not. All right, thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments, drop them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get to them. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk again soon.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.